can I file for a green card as a resident? A lot of folks are kind of stuck in this situation of thinking about, should I become a citizen or should I not? We're going to talk about several factors or things to consider when you want to file the application, petition, or just wait on it. Now, most people think that, oh, I can sponsor a fiance. I know about that. There's been a lot of callers that ask, well, can I sponsor a fiance visa as a resident? And unfortunately, no. There's no eligibility for you based on a permanent resident. So you have to, in that scenario, you definitely have to apply to become a citizen. If you know you're not too sure about your significant other, you don't want to get married just yet. You want to meet again in person to, make sure that the right match, I guess you can say. And the second thing you need to know about filing as a resident, as a sponsor, okay, for your significant other is the beneficiary, your significant other, is that person living in the United States currently or abroad, okay, outside the US. Now, here's the deal. There's a lot more to consider if your significant other is in the United States, okay? Because typically when people call in about this scenario is your significant other has overstayed their visa or just here, entered America without any kind of visa at all. Even if your significant other, your spouse, has entered with a visa, but then overstayed their visa, then y'all know about this. You're going to accrue unlawful presence when you're over 18 years old. And this matters because whether you entered America illegally without a visa or not, or with a visa and you overstayed, you would need a waiver if your sponsor is a permanent resident. And here's the deal. The key thing here is I'm going to share with you on the USCIS website. Okay, so the first thing is that people wonder, what's the magic? Why do I want to, why do people kind of, joke around and mess with you and say, you should find a spouse who's a US citizen? Oh, that's easy. Of course. Yeah, I'm sure it's very difficult. Number one, to even find the right match, okay, for yourself. And you might not even want to get married to someone. I get it. More people are talking about this. Even if you did find the right match for yourself, okay, for marriage, which we do recommend that, though. If you're going to get married, try to find the right match. Do not enter a marriage for an immigration benefit, meaning you don't actually care about the person, you don't love them, because consequence here, friends, is that if USCIS determines that you have marriage fraud, you're not going to be able to get any kind of immigration benefit in the future, aka resident status, green card, and then in the future become a citizen. So that's why you need to be very careful. We've had some people call in and actually admit that, and we had to tell them, sorry, you cannot hire us. I'm sorry. We're not going to offer you a quote or anything. So it's very important. We're looking out for the best interests of you. It's very important that you do not enter a marriage for immigration benefit only. So we do ask you, don't think that you can trick us, okay? Because if you think you can trick us, you won't be able to. Because here's the deal. We prepare you as best we can all the way through from step A to Z for the interview, okay? And so USCIS officers are going to ask you certain questions that some are straightforward and some are a little bit tricky. But at the end of the day, you need to be living with your spouse, and you might need, if you don't know what a quote unquote normal marriage household look like. I guess they all look a little different. I mean, yeah, not everyone has the same situation, but it'd be a little suspect if you don't have clothes in the same closet. Well, yeah, I get it. And maybe if you have a really, really big house, then you have separate closets. Okay, understandable. But yeah, generally, from what I hear from my friends, we all share closets, for better or worse. Okay, so here's the deal. The waiver situation. What is this waiver? Why do I need it? Number one, the reason I'm even sharing this in the first place today, this topic, is because y'all out there, some of y'all don't want to become a U.S. citizen. I don't know why. I think it's a great thing. When you become a U.S. citizen, you can have the ability to vote in these elections, local and federal and state. The unlawful presence is automatically waived when you have entered with a visa, okay? But only if the sponsor is a U.S. citizen. Because here I'm going to show you my screen. Let's say, F2A is for spouses sponsored by a permanent resident. You scroll down here. F2A is current. It's current all the way, chart A and B. That's great. That's great news. So for those who are residents and you have a beneficiary, a spouse outside America, that's completely fine. That's great. You don't have an issue about unlawful presence, nothing like that. However, if your spouse is in the United States, most likely, can't assume for everyone, but most likely your spouse has overstayed their visa. So if that's the case, then the unlawful presence is not waived automatically. So that's just one example. The other thing is if you become a US citizen as a sponsor, then any work that your spouse has done, your foreign national spouse or immigrant spouse, there's a lot of phrasing labels that we use in the immigration world, but if they have been working without authorization, boom, that is waived also. So that's two huge benefits for you as a sponsor if you become a US citizen. Okay. So here's a third major tip. If you file the petition as a resident, but then, you do end up becoming a citizen, and then you wonder, can I use that first petition that I filed as a resident? Unfortunately, you cannot. USCIS, their funds to pay, their staff and everything within USCIS is not funded by Congress. So think about that. They need to make money. Okay. So that's one way to remember that you do need to file a new petition based on you being a US citizen at the time of filing. Okay. At the time of filing is what we look at. Sharing this because you might think, okay, well, petition 535, let me save that money. Where are you going to lose all the time? Because eventually, when you maybe have the marriage interview with USCIS, and you get to the interview, and the officer is going to say, look, y'all, I'm sorry, I cannot approve this because you should have filed a petition. Not should have, you had to have filed a petition when you were a U.S. citizen. So therefore, I cannot approve this, and unlawful presence has not been waived automatically, and any work you've done without a work permit is not waived automatically. So that's why it's very important to consult with a lawyer, okay, to verify these things. That's just one of many reasons to hire a lawyer. Of course, depending on your budget, I get it. And that's why we have this YouTube channel to share tips like this so you can prevent this type of problem of a delay. Okay. And because a lot of people have called us and said very similar situation. So everything I usually share with you is real life scenario. It's not just me reading the books. It's, people's real life scenario. It's not just a hypothetical, because I want you to know I'm not just making this stuff up. It's right here in the policy manual for USCIS. If you are a US citizen as a sponsor for your spouse, okay, doesn't have to be just spouse. It could be any immediate relative classification. Let's say you have a child, unmarried and under 21, and that's considered immediate relative. So here, Chapter 8 of the USCIS Policy Manual, inapplicability of bars to adjustment meaning residency status. But yeah, if you look down here, okay, specific to immediate relatives, it says an adjustment applicant applying as immediate relative may be eligible to adjust status, aka get the green card, residency, even if you have ever been employed or currently without authorization, without the work permit. That's great. But your sponsor got to be a U.S. citizen. So if you are the foreign national beneficiary applicant watching this, talk to your spouse. Hey, buddy, become a U.S. citizen for me. Now, again, this takeaway here is if the beneficiary immigrant is here in the United States. That's where it matters the most. Now, of course, if you're abroad, it would be much faster if the sponsor become a U.S. citizen. But right now, currently, as I showed you earlier, the visa bulletin shows current. However, keep in mind that is just the second and third step. The first step is a petition, and USCIS generally takes almost like double the time if it's a family preference F2A. Just in general, family preference, they take a long time with processing these decisions for the petitions. So the visa bulletin can throw you off a little bit if it shows current, but you're like, what the heck? It's taking a long time with the petition. I should have just filed to become a citizen. So that's why I recommend for any pathway here, whether the immigrant foreign national is abroad or in the US, typically I recommend just become a US citizen. Okay. The website again. The other thing again, you can, if you don't have lawful status at the time, that's fine. You can still file the application and get approved. You do not have to maintain your status. Okay, so those are the three main ones, and you can have violated your terms and conditions of your non-immigrant status. Now, here's the thing. Violate meaning if you didn't go back to school, for example, an F1. If you have a J1 and you have a 2-year restriction stamp on your passport, on your visa, then and you want to apply for adjustment, you need to apply. There's a couple different ways to waive that 2-year restriction. Just generally, if you're not familiar with this, but you're thinking about J1, this is just something to think about in the future. Okay. We like to share information that you know what can happen next steps, okay, down the line in your life, because boy, there's just a lot of decisions to make when it gets closer to visa expiration time. And the first thing, if you have a J1, one way to get waive that 2 years is file a no objection letter, basically requesting a no objection from your country of nationality to see basically if they don't care or not. What I understand, policy making reasons they have that is because U.S. is trying to help the other countries make sure that people from those other countries go back to their country, right? Because if you got education, bring that education back to your country to help improve the country, for example. That's what I think. Okay. But I don't know. I wasn't a politician back then or now. The second way of that doesn't work for some reason, then you apply for a waiver based on hardship, okay, from your spouse. Now, just like the episode, I think earlier this week or last week about, I was talking about hardship waivers, just because your family member doesn't qualifying relative, we call it legally, just because that family member does not have like hardship right at this moment, that doesn't necessarily you cannot apply. You can. Okay. So hopefully that helps. I just shared a lot of information right there, a lot of helpful tips. So hopefully, if even if you're watching now, but you need to go back to it. Okay, here's the benefits of hiring our team and the secret code Green Card Guys on the bottom left of your screen. You could have guessed it, but of course, I always like to share it anyway, like this. And I shared earlier how to access. Go to our website, greencardguys.com. Click on Contact Us, and scroll down and answer a couple questions. It'll take you to the next page to self-schedule an appointment. But of course, if you prefer to call in, you're always welcome to do that. Our lines are open until 6 p.m. Central Time. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, friends, stay tuned and stay safe.